A year ago, I was in Boston, so I miss being in Boston. I'm in Cambridge in the UK today, so missing all the travel since March, the last time I was on an airplane, which is very rare. But when I was here then, I was introducing the concept of a new reusable auto-injector that we were developing at Phillips Medisize. And I said that that was going to be launched about a month later at PDA. And lo and behold, it was. So now I'm able to talk to you more about the development that we're doing. And hopefully I'll find that I've got time to do a little bit of a demonstration for you as well. So just to give a little bit of background very quickly, none of this is going to be a surprise to anybody in the audience, of course, but the biologics are dominating new drug applications. And when we look ahead, even now, just 3 or 4 years ahead, the revenues from biologics are estimated to be almost $500 billion. So this is a huge market for pharma. Within that, and we look at the different delivery mechanisms, injectables represent a significant portion of this market, really shared between that and IV. And within the injectables market, pre-filled syringes have become the dominant primary package for the injectables, both in 1 ml and now more and more in 2.25 ml containers. And pharmaceutical companies trust this. This has been a long established primary container for pharmaceutical companies to use. And when we look at the advent of auto-injectors have been built around this as a primary container. And way back, when we go back to the 1990s, key decisions were made in the auto-injector platforms that have really driven the evolution over the past 20 years. So they were built around single-use devices, primarily spring-driven, and they really took off in 2006 when we saw the launch of an auto-injector for Humira and an auto-injector for Enbrel, two of the biggest selling drugs over the last 10 years. So that's been the cornerstone of growth for the auto-injector market, and it's really allowed auto-injectors to evolve over that period of time. And we look at current devices, as you can go and find them in 2020, auto-injectors have evolved into incredibly robust, reliable platform technologies. They're easy to use for patients. They're really good for pharmaceutical companies. So they've really established a strong link in the market sector. And we've looked at that and we've thought, how can we enter that market? And the question is, has that technology plateaued? If we go along this branch of evolution and development, are there limitations that limit the ability for that technology to evolve further? So there's a big environmental impact, right? When we use a single-use device, and auto-injectors are unique in that it's a one-shot device and you throw away all of it. So it's a big environmental impact. We hear connectivity all over the place these days, and I go and talk a lot about connectivity and what that's going to look like over the next few years. Auto-injectors are particularly difficult to connect, primarily because of their single-use nature, and we look at different add-on technologies, but it's a difficult challenge. And finally, we start to see the limitations of spring-based plunger drives, particularly as we look at new drugs coming online where people are trying to put higher concentrations or longer lasting drugs. That has caused higher viscosity, but more so what we see these days is it's increasing the volume. So we've seen the first launch of a 2.25 ml auto-injector this year, and we are going to see more 2.25 launches. What we've looked at is developing a reusable technology. Currently, we call this our smart auto-injector, and we think it addresses those issues, that plateau. It's better for the environment. By having a two-piece assembly, we're limiting the amount that gets dispensed each injection. By being able to put electronics into the reusable portion, it makes it really easy to put it into the connected world. So it is really ready out of the box with Bluetooth connectivity and a set protocol to be able to be connected straight away. And finally, we think it provides a really flexible platform for pharmaceutical companies. By using an electronic motor to do the drive of the plunger into the stopper, we get all the capabilities that an electronic drive can provide. Constant speed, being able to take over variations that we see in friction or siliconization, gentle engagement of the stopper, and being able to engage it no matter where it is, no matter what the fill level is. So you can imagine all the advantages that you get in using an electronic drive mechanism. And we've made it so that it is small and intuitive and easy to use for patients. One of the big problems that we've seen with reusable technologies in the past, including things that we've developed, is they tend to be bigger. And it makes it a bit awkward for patients. We've really focused on minimizing the size while being able to gain all the advantages that you can see in a reusable technology. The size of the device is comparable to what we see as leading best-in-class disposable devices today. So just to give you a sense of what it's made of, first you have the reusable element. It's an intelligent electronic reusable drive. It's rechargeable, so it's got an onboard battery. Each charge is useful for about 15 injections or over a period of between 1 and 2 months, depending on the injection frequency. It's got a lot of power in it, so it can drive low and high viscosities, 1 mil and 2.25 mil. It can do full dose delivery in 10 seconds, but you can adjust that if you choose to at the point of configuration, if for some reason you'd like to go faster or potentially even go slower. So it is controlling the speed and position through the syringe and through the delivery mechanism, but again, being able to accommodate changes in the fluid properties or the friction. It's a simple sleeve triggered operation, so very similar to current disposable devices where we're not trying to move the syringe. Instead, we have a sleeve interlocked that presses the needle in when you press it against your skin. And as I said, it's rechargeable. It's got a 3-year service life with built-in Bluetooth low energy connectivity. If we look at the other side, it's paired with a single-use disposable cassette. And one of the big advantages of our device is you can fit 1 mil and 2.25 mil pre-filled syringes in the same cassette. So that cassette it's got one spacer part in it that is there for the 1 mil syringes, but that same syringe can be used for both the PFS sizes. It does standard subcutaneous delivery. It's got full needle safety before and after injection. So it's really trying to mirror from a needle safety and patient safety point of view, exactly what you see with single-use disposable devices today. It's got around 50% less waste and storage space. So again, we're trying to get the balance right between better improvement for the environment, but managing that with providing full needle safety. So we're trying to not expose the syringe and the needle to users, trying to get a lot of the advantages from disposable devices, but really shrink the material that is surrounding that to provide those features. As you can see, it's got a large inspection window, the same as what you would see in comparable devices, and you can optionally add RFID to it.
Kevin, I want to let you know you have a lot of questions in the question section, but I'm going to have to wrap it up. So this is what I'm going to do.
Okay.
For those of you who have questions and want to stay on with Kevin for another minute or so, and then Kevin, when you have a moment, if you can get back to these folks with their questions, you can do it through the Hopin platform. Sure. Otherwise, I'm going to ask folks, the next section will begin now at 1:40. Just go to the breakout sessions, scroll, find your session. And Kevin, I'll leave you for another couple of minutes to answer. And I apologize if the system cuts you off. I hope it doesn't. Okay.
No problem at all.
Okay.
So I can just stay live to do that and just go through.
Okay. So,
yep.
So thank you. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you, I'll see you at the breakouts.
Thanks, Valerie. There's a question about viscosity range. So we're set up to deliver about 70 newtons to the back end of the stopper. Clearly, the viscosity range is going to depend on whether it's a 1 mil or a 2.25 mil volume syringe. But essentially, we're probably up at above 50 centipoise. I think even higher than that when we look at the 1 mil. When we get down to the 2.25, of course, it's a balance between that and injection time. And generally, we're trying to do the time and viscosity around 27 gauge thin wall needles. But we're easily above 20 centipoise with 2.25. Latex or natural rubber components. So outside of the normal pre-filled syringe, there's no latex components or rubber components within the cassette. I can show you the cassette here. This is all plastic molding material, similar to what you would use for medical technologies. Fastest dosing time for its highest viscosity. So you've got a balance that you can play there between adjusting the dosing time depending on viscosity. And because it's got such better user feedback, we think that it's going to be possible for high viscosities and high volumes. If you want to have it more gentle for users, you could program longer injection times into it, and it gives very good end of dose indication. So we think that because of that better feedback to patients, they're going to be able to hold the device longer if that's what's needed. We would sell, the intention is that actually we offer a service for pre-filled syringes to load those into the cassettes so that the pharmaceutical companies don't have to do that. So we can optionally do full loading, and then we would imagine that it's going to be patient or pharma by pharma company basis, but we'd imagine there's a co-package unit, and then there is a multiple cassette unit that would be sent to patients through their pharmacies. The next question is around data through Bluetooth. So what we're doing is we're capturing and storing all dosing information for the life of the device. Think of it as what we're doing with our mobile app is synchronizing our cloud environment to the data that's stored on the device. And so even if for some reason you weren't connected on one dose event, it would still synchronize and match all of those up the next time that it connects. The reusable part usage, it's set for 3 years, which equates to about 550 injections. So that's assuming worst case is an injection every other day. So every 2 days over a 3-year period to get to about the 550. It has not been used in clinical trials yet. So we've done a number of user studies and human factor studies, including some in combination with pharma companies. We're getting really good results within that, but we haven't gone through any clinical trials yet. And last question, you imagine you have some protection for the user accidentally pulling the device away. That's a great question. The device, in fact, I'll try and demonstrate that. So if you're still on, I'm going to load the device. So very simple, as you can see. Now, I'm going to pull off early. Hopefully you can be able to see this. So if it was an early injection, you can see indeed that it senses that. That information would be stored and passed over the Bluetooth connection to the cloud if that's what you're using. When I remove this cassette now, even though it was partial dose delivered, it's indicated that it's a used cassette now. So if I tried to re-deliver with that, you can see that it senses it's a used device, even though it was only a partial dose delivery. So that can't be used and delivered again. I have no idea. I hope people caught all of that, but thank you very much for all of the questions.